What does gun control in the United States of America and the Brexit referendum have in common? A couple of things actually, but I just want to focus on one. So, during the election, the referendum, let's restate, the referendum on Brexit, whilst talking what distant odds and what a hopeless cause it would be to go out and vote for Brexit, convincing the bookies, convincing the financial system, the footsie, the pound, etc., the bankers, all playing the game as foregone conclusion, to give the impression that it was a non sequitur. It was almost a foregone conclusion. They did this whilst quietly behind the scenes they were in fact panicking. In fact, a female MP who was pro-Remain allegedly, at a key point at the heat of the referendum, as it was getting close, and I believe the true polls were probably showing a far darker picture of how close it was, a key MP was stabbed, a female MP, to make it additionally, because we cry more for women, you see, was stabbed and murdered. I think it was Jo Cook was her name. I can't even remember the detail. Now, if anyone ever was actually murdered, I have great empathy for them. And the stabbee was of course a man, was of course pretty rundown and tramp-like, and as he stabbed to murder her, or as she engaged in a fracas that saw her get stabbed and murdered, he yelled out a key phrase that said, "Britain first," which, apart from meaning that he was clearly very nationalistic, was actually the name of an organization that was campaigning and had already been positioned as almost like a British National Party, which is kind of considered and perceived as a white supremacist, anti any foreigner type organization. I'm not sure if it even exists anymore, but it kind of part exists at the time. And this was at the heat to show what disgusting people were that actually wanted self-determination, reduced contribution to a super state that prescribed laws that they had no option of opting out of, and cost a small fortune, and was highly flagrantly wasteful and totally interested in self-entrenching monopolist behavior for mega corporates at the expense of small, medium enterprises and individuals, retailers and liberty-seeking people. But you'd be a nationalist racist if you were to consider any of those things merit-worthy. And in that process, they were swinging sentiment, or attempting to swing sentiment, against the murderers versus the innocent, feminine, pro-cooperation, brotherly love of neighbour Remain MP. And to add further insult to injury, at the key point, very close then to the actual voting day on the referendum, this woman's murder and subsequent burial took place just prior, conveniently just prior, to the actual voting day. A plane which said "vote, leave," or words to that exact extent. I didn't see it, I had it reported to me and my memory fades, but something that was very clearly for the Brexit system, running a banner on the back of it, flew over the town and area in London, I think it was, I don't know specifically, she was from the north, but flew over her funeral, which was being held, or her memorial service that was being held and mass attended by other Remain sympathizers and alleged family members of this person. The husband's statement was incredibly bizarre to me. It didn't have great remorse. It was, she died serving, she died this. It was like a big, it was personally a very unemotional, but she was a hero and these people must not be allowed to win type address. He aspired to Gettysburg type levels, but fell well short in my opinion. And as I say, I don't have any knowledge or real view in terms of what happened in that. I don't have any special facts, but I treat it as a hypothesis, worthy of potential suspicion, but potentially true. As I say, if anybody was legitimately murdered, it's a tragic event. Despite this, this was all an emotional, psychological manipulation that was orchestrated in many's view, and I have some empathy for that perception. What's happening right now on gun control? What's this got to do with liberty, gun control in America? Right now in the States, and actually amazingly worldwide, American gun control is now a global flipping issue. Londoners have to come out. Flipping Dunblane has to come out and relive a tragedy of I don't know how long ago. Capital cities, which are well controlled and have rent-a-crowd capability of great extremes, I'm sure, whether that has anything to do with this, I don't know, were coming out all over the planet. Save our kids, NRA, how many people have you killed today? And other great witticisms and poetic commentary of a political nature about one nation state for which they are neither citizens, neither voters, and don't face the outcome and are unlikely to have any kind of facts apart from which their flipping TV and newspaper gives them. They all turned out globally. And of course in America there was an extensive investment potentially in rent-a-crowd. I can't possibly say if that was true, but things were stoked up to an extent that there were a great number of people expressing their concerns for the wholesale slaughter. Sandy Hook. Boy, did we revisit Sandy Hook. Isn't there ever a smelly kettle of fish in there? And many other such events. Reminiscent to me of the 3 buildings falling down with 2 planes almost in their stinkiness. And the proliferation of crisis actors that appeared at every potential crisis and looked remarkably similar to me and my naked eye, whilst I might well be wrong. They all coincided. So here's a dark, unfortunately dark prediction, but I understand how a control structure works. They need momentum and they need to maintain momentum. How? When you've got a lot of young, manipulated, university, school-going kids all whipped up in a frenzy, and Democrats and half the Republicans and all the anti-Trump brigade and all the anti-NRA brigade and anybody who's got an axe to grind, all showing up and doing rent-a-crowd demonstrations. How do you maintain that momentum so that you can justify a law that goes well beyond any previous minor controls that have been brought in? At the key moments, like our MP being stabbed by a racist nationalist who declares himself, he has the only thing he gets to say are those 2 words before being brought down, just to say, hey, I'm a Nazi and a bastard and I'm voting Brexit and I murder women. Well, unfortunately, the prediction I'm going to say that has a high probability of occurring is a rather dark one, and I absolutely hope to be incorrect. So hear me now. This is not a wish, this is a concern. I absolutely hope to be incorrect on this. I have a suspicion, as things conveniently often turn out for tipping point causes, that a major, horrific, particularly maliceful, with nasty knife twisting aspects to it, gun-based event will occur involving outlier lives being lost. To push this camel finally over the cliff. This camel that has been lined up for a slaughter for a long, long time, and it's been walked and stalked and pushed and pedaled, and it's been drummed up to a fever pitch, and we now need the straw, the fat straw that breaks that camel's back, to close the deal on unprecedented legislation to protect you and your kids, because that's what control structures really do. They love you, they care for you, and they wish to protect you from those among you that are just plain evil. You see, you as a good person just can't see that every now and then there's really a bad apple, and we need to do laws that punish everybody and their liberty to protect you from those few bad apples. There you go. There's your narrative. And all you need is a bit of real final crescendo melt up trauma. Orchestrated, organized, or maybe just happens. Who knows? I have a prediction. I hope to be wrong. But I have a feeling that they've drummed this issue up to a fever pitch, and there is a plan. They already have the act written, and they need their deal closing event. That even someone who supposedly is NRA friendly, Republican, self-determining, libertation friendly, who could bring in the real gun limiting legislator? It's never going to be a Democrat. It's going to be a Republican that the NRA most think are their friend. The one to stab you, the Judas, is the one who sits next to you and kisses you on the cheek. Never the one you are watching with half an eye. That's how the game rolls. He's there, not for your needs or interests, to serve the purpose of the control structure that protected him, gave him the life he's had ever since his first casino that went bust was bailed out, and he got to live on a banker's roll of Chase Manhattan, the Rockefeller Bank, way back when he was in his 20s. He's been groomed, preordained for the job to serve the masters. He was given his TV show to act out and practice, and this is his moment. And you think he represents you. And I'm here to tell you, stop being a stupid flipping fool. You're one big event away from your dearest pal in the White House, Washington, D.C., saying, reluctantly, we are having to bring in some of the strongest legislation. America can't let their kids bleed like this. Wait for it. I fear it's coming. I truly hope to be wrong. I truly hope to be wrong.